Well, good morning, Living Word Church. My name is Andrew Scotland, and today I want to give you some encouragement in these strange times that we face, that we are called to bring a story, and that story has the power to impact how other people view and see the world. I was encouraged this morning as I was reading my newspapers that Netflix was seeing an increase in what people are watching, changing from dark material to very light, family-friendly, fun stuff that people are watching. Why? Because we live in an environment where people are fed fear all the time. There's a story being fed to people, which is a negative story. And people can't cope with so much negativity. They need to have hope. And so they start to watch things which are more hopeful and more light in their flavor. A famous Christian author once said, Jim Rosh, that Jesus taught stories not to give people information, not so that people could be entertained, but that people's worldview could be impacted and changed and transformed so that they saw things from God's perspective and not just from their own perspective. We see this very much in 1 Kings chapter 19, and we're going to read from verse 9, and it's a story of Elijah. He's come to a cave and he's lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" So Elijah then starts to bring this excuse. He said, "I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I, only am left, and they seek my life to take it away." Elijah is communicating to God the story that's in his heart, the story that's in his mind. We are all creators of our own worldview, and we are all responsible for how we see the world and how we see our interaction with the world. Now, Elijah's experiences, he's experienced the threats of Jezebel, and he feels that his life is in fear, but he's fed himself this story as to why everything is going to go wrong. And now God is about to confront him with this. And he said, "Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great strong wind tore the mountains and broke into pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. After the fire, a sound of a low whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak, went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" What God was doing is he was revealing to Elijah that there was a greater story, a greater power than the power of Jezebel, than the power of the Baals, and the power of the fact that he believed the myth that he was all by himself. God was showing there was a greater story at work. And he even reveals to Elijah that the story is not as bleak as the way he sees it. He has to take his viewpoint, not from the story he's fed himself, but by the story that God has given him to discharge to the people of Israel. As God's prophet, he is responsible for speaking hope into the situation, for speaking the words of God into the situation. But he's got lost in his own thoughts and in his own fears. And God has reminded him that all is not lost. All is not needed to fear. You have to listen to the still small voice. And that still small voice can speak life into a situation, particularly what we're facing in the here and now. So the question for you today, Living Word Church, is whose word and whose story are you listening to? Are you listening to the story of fear that's being fed by the media and by the news? Or are you listening to the story of hope that we find in the Bible that teaches us that God is in control and that he has a plan for our future, a plan to bless us and prosper us? I hope this message encourages you, and take care and look after yourselves, but encourage one another to listen to the word of the Lord and hear that still small voice that can transform your situation, take you out of any cave that you find yourself in, and make you effective for God and for his kingdom in these times. Be blessed and take care until the next time.